expenditure to build the auditorium and build the theater, so they would have people stay long enough to finish the place.
Oh, everybody had the same thing. Everybody came from somewhere. And the first thing you always ask was kind of like everybody does today. Well, where are you from? Like, nobody was ever from here.
You had to meet people, and of course everybody else was in the same boat, you know, because everybody else was coming from somewhere. And there was a few people that were home, that grew up in the state of Washington, but not very many.
Secrecy reigned supreme. All mail and phone transmissions in and out of the camp were monitored. Supervisors stressed to workers the importance of their mission while not knowing themselves what the mission was. But the workers kept coming, the camp kept growing, and the lines never seemed to stop. By February 1945, when main construction was completed, over 250,000 people had made their way through the gates of Hanford. Most packed up and moved out of state. The workers that were to remain were relocated in the government-built town of Richland. The trailers scattered and the bulldozers returned to hide the remnants of what had been in the desert sand.
By February 22nd of 45, the camp was, I can't say abandoned, they moved everyone out. That coincided with the F reactor, which was 7 miles up the river, going critical. And they had a safety law there that nobody could live that close to an active reactor. So at that point, the construction actually was winding down, and they moved people into Richland, or people just moved on to other jobs.
By the time we left, it was getting pretty well, the camp was pretty well emptied out, and there really weren't too many trailers. We were virtually some of the very last ones there. I thought it was so big I had a boyfriend. And it was so sad that day. It was on a Sunday, and his folks pulled out before we did. I was brokenhearted. I can remember that day so well.
A short time ago, an American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy.
We have used it in order to shorten the agony of war, in order to save the lives of thousands and thousands of young Americans.
On August 9, 1945, Hanford's contribution to the war effort became apparent when newspapers announced the bombing of Nagasaki, Japan. Only 3 days earlier, the devastation of Hiroshima revealed the nuclear secret to the world. Reporters quickly flocked to Hanford to get a glimpse of this secret camp. But beyond the barricaded area were nothing more than a few guards, a fire protection crew, and some wandering goats that had been left behind by a trailer resident.
One of the things I have a great appreciation for out there is that you were basically looking at people who were past a draft age, so they were middle-aged, and they were doers. They really did a lot of stuff with what they had, and that, when you think about it, you can really get into that. It's really kind of a tribute to those people, what they did.
'Twas once that I was happy, my life was filled with cheer. I never had seen Hanford till the patrol brought me here. I heard brags about her beauty, pretty girls and big strong men, rolling plains and majestic mountains, just heaven from end to end. The one thing that is certain, of this there is no denying, the guy that started that noise did a hell of a lot of lying. Deep in the heart of Hanford, there is sand in all we eat. Girls are all bow-legged, the boys all have flat feet. No longer are we religious, we drink, we fight, we curse. No worry about going to hell, it can't be any worse. Still there was no one to blame but me, the patrol never forgot it. I asked for foreign duty. Believe me, I got it.
Camp Hanford itself may have vanished into history, but its mission lived on. Nuclear power was real, and Hanford became even more important to the security of our nation. Beginning in 1947, and for 11 years that followed, the U.S. government invested more than $1 billion in new construction projects at the Hanford Works project.
From 45, 46, 47, things kind of sat out there. At one of the reports I've read, they said there was a top secret report they'd given to Truman that in 1946 we didn't have enough pieces to have a functioning nuclear weapon. And so it had kind of all been allowed to languish, and when the Russians set off the bomb, that was kind of the call.
An area was needed to house new construction workers. With safety and security reasons making the use of the old Camp Hanford unacceptable, a new location was sought. The small town of Richland was quickly filling up with alphabet-numbered homes, but the need for temporary workers surpassed the pace of construction. A new trailer camp was proposed just 5 miles north of Richland. Unlike the secret Hanford camp, progress of the North Richland camp was announced in full detail by Richland's local newspaper. By January 1948, it was estimated that the camp would house 25,000 people. 10,000 of those would be trailers.
There was a little difference in Camp Hanford attitude versus North Richland. During the Second World War, jobs became pretty plentiful, so it was, you could kind of write your own ticket in a lot of ways. And so these people, some of the people were a little picky. The people that came here that lived in North Richland, they were darn glad that they had jobs. I can remember a guy telling my dad, when they were talking about being laid off, my dad said something to me, he said, "Are you going to leave this area? Go back to Arkansas?" He says, "No, I'm not going back to Arkansas." He says, "This is the best job I ever had." And he said, "I'm staying right here."
The layout of the camp mirrored its predecessor, with all utilities and amenities provided for $4.20 per week. Most of the trailer occupants made the best of their situation while they waited for a home to become available in nearby Richland. Yards, flowers, and painted fences decorated the newly established camp.
The people in Richland, they looked down their nose at the people in North Richland because they were construction workers. They looked at them as basically gypsies, things like that. But the vast majority of the people who were out there were family people. They were trying to make a living. They were trying to support their family. They wanted the best for their family just like anybody else. And actually, probably more of those people stayed around and actually took over Richland eventually than the people that moved into Richland in the very beginning.
In June 1955, the Richland Villager announced that the North Richland camp would cease to exist and would be turned over to the U.S. Army. The tiny government town of Richland was now a bustling metropolis of nearly 28,000 residents. A modern city had emerged. Tree-lined streets and identical houses lined the once barren desert. Only a few remnants of its past reminded residents of how far they had come. Richland had much to be proud of. Its contributions to the war effort would live on in the history books, while the memory of trailer life could be summed up by a popular saying, "Remember Pearl Harbor, for you can never forget Hanford."
Far over the mountains my pathway did lead. For days I was hauled by a great iron steed. A short run by bus and my trip was complete. I landed in Hanford town, all quiet and neat. The barracks enclosed in a wire-fenced lot, a small room with its dresser and cot. With drink, fights, and gambling, and prayers mighty few, this boom town of Hanford was sure something new. People from all walks and stations of life, the unmarried young, the aged husband and wife, the lean suntown farmer from Arkansas, the preacher and lawyer from old Iowa, the godly and wicked and all in between, coming by car, bus, and trailer are seen. The white, the red, black, and brown. These are the people who make up Hanford town. Line up at morning, at noon, and at night. Line up in front, and to left and to right. Line up for paychecks and line up for meals. Line up till you're so tired you rock on your heels. Loneliness, homesickness, worries and cares drowns in a flood of John Barleycorn's wares. The whiskey and gin and rum bottles clink at 20 a quart or $1 a drink. Flowing bowls bring them an evening of peace, watched by the vigilant DuPont police, back to the barracks and into a bed, or flop in the gutter and lies as if dead. Off to the job ere the sun's on its way, eating undercooked grub every day. Sex and lovemaking each turn of the street, labor and toil in the cold and the heat. Blizzards and sandstorms and blisters and strains, sage-covered hills and the parched desert's plains.